You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Hey, welcome back. I'm your host, Andrea Spearman, and this is The Black Landscape, where we engage with emerging and established Black leaders here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am a light-skinned Black woman with dark brown curly hair, loose and fluffy, with dark brown and black glasses. Today, we're here with Xavier. Please describe yourself to our listeners.
I am a 6'3", 6'4", also extremely light-skinned, mixed boy, with dreads down to my shoulders, and I should be having my fly-ass clear glasses on right now, but I lost them, so I'm wearing my ghetto backups.
Oh. Been there.
Yeah, I know that.
So I recently met Clay through our work with the Hip Hop Artist Residency and Training Program hosted by Push Dance Company. But before we get into that, Clay, tell us about your beginnings. Like, where did you grow up? Are you a Bay native?
Oh, I mean, this story gets complicated. Half and half, I guess, is the answer. My mother's side of the family is from out here, and my father's side is of the family is from Jersey. My mother is the black one. My father is the white one. They met in Jersey when my grandmother moved there and brought my mom with her. And so she grew up and she had high school out in Jersey. And so they went to high school together, met each other out there, had me very young, like 22-ish they were about. And so younger than me even, which is wild now that I'm an adult. And I'm like, oh, damn, y'all was trying to raise me before. Right. Because if I had a kid right now, whoo-wee. But so I grew up in Jersey, in North Jersey, until I was about 11, and then went through a whole bunch of custody changes and wild home life and et cetera. Ended up living with my grandparents for a while, and they were just super old white people who I love dearly, and they love me dearly. But they said, listen, you have some family out on the West Coast. They could do more with you. You wouldn't have to be just stuck in the house playing video games all the time with our old asses. So you should go out there and like live your life and have fun. You know what I'm saying? And so I was supposed to move out here in with my grandmother and my great grandmother Elaine in Berkeley, where they've lived since the 70s. And then
Elaine.
2 weeks before I came out, my great grandmother passed. So then that threw everything into a tumble, and it was like, oh my God. But then, luckily enough, my godfather, who my mother had known also from high school, happened to live 3 blocks away from where my great grandmother stayed. And so I ended up moving in with him and been in Berkeley and Oakland ever since. A lot of family out here, Berkeley, Richmond, Pinole, Oakland, San Jose. So it was kind of weird moving out here from Jersey because I felt like I didn't know anybody, and there were people I had met like when I was like 4, but people would come up to me on the street and be like, oh, hey, I'm your cousin. Oh, hey, I'm your cousin. I'd be like, how many of us are there?
Right.
But at this point, I would really identify because I went to middle school, high school, college in the Bay, had so many formative experiences, really got into music out here. And so at this point, I would really say I'm a Californian. I still keep a nice cold Jersey streak in there. You know what I'm saying? Represent the East Coast, but I'm a little soft now. I'm nice. I facially moisturize and shit, you know. California got me. I eat avocados. Like, it's bad,
stop
you know. I'm real Bayer, you know.
Not the avocados.
They got me, and the toast and everything. The avocado toast. Now, I'm not paying no $14 though. You got me messed up.
Right. That is such wow. Didn't realize you were from Jersey, but that is such an interesting journey. And to go from East Coast to West Coast. And I know you said, you were really young when you moved from here to there, from there to here. But in your sense of like growing up, listening to music, who were like your biggest influences or the folks that you press play the most on when you were in the East Coast versus coming here and hearing that bass sound?
You see, the interesting thing is, and this shocks everybody when I tell them this, but I wasn't into music growing up. I'm not,
Shame.
I know. I'm not one of those like stories where it's just like, oh yeah, well, I started playing when I was 3 and then da 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 da. Nah, my dad was a musician, still is a musician. I shouldn't say was. He hasn't passed and he hasn't stopped playing music. But when I was a kid, he was far more active. That was like his full-time job, right? And he was pursuing his band career. And mind you, this is in kind of rural North New Jersey with a white father. He's playing guitar, playing rock, really, for the most part. And so I
Yes.
grew up in studios out there, not even knowing what that was, not knowing what was going on because I'm 4, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what a
Mhm.
studio is and I don't know what music is. And I've only been exposed to my father's music because my mom isn't really a big music head. You know what I'm saying? My grandma didn't play too much music in the house growing up either. So for my black side, they're not educating me on music at all. And the only thing I'm hearing is my father's music. And it's not that I don't like it, but to this day, I'm not that big of a rock head. So when I just, I just thought that that's all there was. Um, I just never tried to put music on. Music for me was always as a child, like whatever my father played or whatever my grandfather, his father played. And I just never questioned it. You know, I never thought about it.
Mm.
I never thought about making it, you know. But about 5th grade, I started playing saxophone in class.
Mhm.
And the only instrument my public school had access to was saxophone. So we had like a 40
Oh.
children saxophone choir. It was terrible. And I was the only one big enough to play tenor saxophone. Everybody else played alto saxophone. So that set me upon that path. But even for years after that, I wasn't really, really into music until one of my parting gifts to move to California was an iPod Nano, which was like so huge and crazy for me at the time. But I had
Mhm.
no idea how to load music on there. So the only 2 songs I had on there was Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder and the Ghostbusters
Yes.
theme song. And I ran those 2
Yes.
songs back. That's all
Dun,
I had.
dun, dun,
Sir
dun,
Duke.
dun. Dun, 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 dun. Who you gonna
You
call?
know, Ghostbusters, you know what I'm saying? And
That's
Ella, you know what I'm
hilarious.
saying? Sir Duke, you know what I'm saying?
Classic.
With a voice like Ella's ringing out, no way the band can lose. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was running that
Mhm.
back. And it wasn't until I moved out here that my godfather gave me hella CDs. And so I started loading all them CDs on my iPod, figuring it out. And I just didn't know what was going on. I like found Depeche Mode. I found
Yes.
Duran Duran. I found like all these
Yeah.
rock bands that he was into too. And I was like, okay, this is cool. But then he gave me a Wu-Tang CD. And that's when everything changed. When I
Woo-ha.
got that Wu-Tang, it was over. I was obsessed. I was like, what are you talking about? There's more music than just rock. Like you're
Mhm.
playing me. And then I heard the way RZA chopped samples and I was like, you're playing with me. And so I started going to record stores out here. There's so many record stores. And a big difference between like Jersey and here is in Jersey, you just stay in the house. There where I'm
Mm.
from, there ain't no sidewalks. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere you drives everywhere. So when you 11, you go in the house, you go to school, and you go where your family takes you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Mm.
then when I moved out here, it was like nah, bike to school. You know what I'm saying? Bike to school, go around, hang around in the city. We had off campus, you know, like afternoons and stuff. And I was just out in the city from being in the country out of nowhere. So I was just like, wow. But listening to that RZA stuff, I could go to the record shops and start buying records. And that put me on to jazz. And so then the combination of like listening to the samples and listening to the people who sampled it really
Mhm.
got me into hip hop and jazz. And I started playing my saxophone, which I picked back up once I got to California in the Berkeley public schools in the jazz program. I started playing along with the jazz records I was hearing. So
Mhm.
really the difference is when I was in New Jersey, I never picked what music to listen to. So I can't really say what the Jersey sound is or what the East Coast sound is. But what's funny is even when I moved to the West Coast, it was East Coast rap that got me really into music at
Mhm.
all. And funnily enough, now to this day, when I look back at Stevie Wonder being the first song I ever really had to run back, he's definitely a top influence to this day. Like, I think Stevie Wonder is the most phenomenal composer we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And I think he's really as genius as like Bach or Beethoven, but we don't give him that credit because he's But
You ain't
and
gotta whisper. It's
excuse
because he's black.
me. Come on now.
But that's all right, because we honoring blackness here.
Okay, period. But yeah, so that's like really the big difference for me. Just coming from the East Coast to the West Coast is just finding out that I could choose what music to listen to and finding out that there was more than what I had been exposed to. And then
Mm.
just really starting my curious, streak where I just wanted to find out, search for every record, search for every CD. Remember, I got my hands on a J Dilla Donuts CD, Madlib, Shades of Blue, MF Doom, Metal Fingers. I got those 3 CDs at the same time, and no way I wasn't going to start making beats after those. So really, just finding CDs, finding stuff to listen to. It was still kind of that era a little bit. Now that's completely phased out. But like, yeah, slapping stuff on my iPod was really just, changed my life.
Wow. So it's like going to those record stores, finally being exposed to all these different genres, like, and hearing the composition and the thoughtfulness that goes into creating a record. Like, that is what sparked, like, okay, I want to start making these beats. I want to start creating this music myself, right?
Yep, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were there any standout records that was like, okay, I really want to do this. Like, this is what needs to push me to go to school for this?
Um, Definitely, like I said, J Dilla Donuts was
Mm-hmm.
a just completely foundational record to me, because what really got me into music was sample manipulation, right? Like people chopping, screwing,
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever. And when you listen to Jay Dilla's records, he's just a master chopper. You know what I'm saying? He's not necessarily the difference between where I'm at now musically and where I was then is Jay Dilla. I'm gonna say, and a lot of people are gonna hate on me for this, considering the fact that I'm a Jay Dilla fan. Calm down, but Jay Dilla is really a thoroughbred beat maker. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Mm.
chops beats, he makes beats, and at a phenomenal virtuoso level. That is his instrument. He's not a pop producer or like a popular music producer to make commercially super viable records that are, on the top charts. And I'm a little bit more interested in that, like production of the record, people who are really like thoroughbred record producers, maybe like more like a Quincy Jones, the way he handled Thriller,
Mm-hmm.
right? Very different approaches to making music. But at the time, I was solely concerned with the sample chop. What can you do with a record? How can you chop it up and how can you flip it? And Donuts being his last record, his deathbed record, really, that he made
Oh.
on a 404 in the hospital is just like
Mm.
insane, especially if you know what the SP 404 is, which was one of my first beat machines. It's a very limited machine. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? It's very much um create within the bounds of limitations to push yourself farther. Like there's
Mm.
so much on that machine that you can't do on a computer or you can't do on a more powerful machine, but also all those limitations push creativity to the point where he was bending time signatures and doing tempo speed ups and drop downs without any automation, just off of how he was playing the pads. I mean, just really genius level sample manipulation. So I think when I heard that record and just how musical it was and how crazy you could get with chopping, it pushed me to go, yo, I'm going to go download Logic, right, on my computer. I torrented it. I stole so many programs when I was
Uh,
starting. I was like 13, 14, and I tried it and I could not figure it out for the life of me. I just couldn't figure it out. I tried to chop this Isaac Hayes sample for like 2 months and couldn't figure it out until I got a beat machine. I got a machine. It's spelled machine, but I got one of those and I started chopping on that. And it was the physicalness of it that brought me to really figuring it out because I learned from somebody like Jay Dilla, who operates on a physical piece of hardware and really plays it like an instrument. Because for me, I'm just an instrument nerd. You know, I grew up in band. I grew up stealing everybody's instruments, and that's why to this day I still play all these instruments. You come in the studio and you see all my saxophones, my clarinet, my flute, my trumpet, and my harmonica, and you go, "Yo, who play all this?" And I'm like, "Me." And they're like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Yo, it is what it is. I'm an instrument nerd. That's like one of my hobbies. I just like picking up and diddling with physical, mechanical instruments, you know." So when I got the beat machine, it was very similar to that, and it felt like an instrument. And that's why I think Jay Dilla was really what pushed me forward into starting, and really also Madlib and MF Doom, because they had a very similar process, and they were all dedicating themselves to the music in the same way, like the master sample manipulation. And that really just changed my life, because they showed me not only what you can do with a sample, but also the choice of samples, the records from the 70s, the records from the 60s, soul, funk, disco, jazz. It just put me onto so many genres. So I would really say those 3 CDs, really, J Dilla Donuts, Madlib Shades of Blue, and MF Doom Metal Fingers. Probably volume 5 and 6 is my favorite one. That's probably my favorite volume of Metal Fingers. But I had 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6 at the time. But 5, 6 really changed my life for the most. But those 3 CDs just showed me what it is a sample can do, what it is a beat machine can do, what it is with the music that they're sampling, and just created my whole foundation. You know, that's really what pushed me to like start creating music and taking it seriously, and not just showing up to band class and like diddling around. You know what I'm saying?
So just to be clear, this podcast does not promote illegal downloading.
My bad.
But we do promote revolution. So take that as you will. When you are shopping for essentials, isn't it annoying to see the high-priced brand labels for basic everyday products? Try Brandless instead. Brandless is one of the world's fastest-growing commerce platforms. They make it easier for people to take better care of themselves, their families, and the planet by working with the best ingredients, partners, and customers to drive community-led innovation and validation. By focusing on collaboration over control, quality over packaging, and people over promotion, they're leading a movement that believes that making better choices should be simple and easy. All of their products are high quality, yet offered at simple, fair prices. I've been using the essential oils of eucalyptus and lavender in my home for years, and given out many gift baskets from their beauty line. Just last year, I purchased a set of wine glasses and a cheese platter kit that has been used for many family gatherings. For every product sold at Brandless, you can be sure that they've scoured the world to research and meet the quality gold standards for that category. They really prioritize offering products that match people's values, preference, and requirements. Whether it be organic, non-toxic cleaning supplies, or cruelty-free and clean personal care products free of over 400 questionable ingredients. Their products are crafted with intention, so you can brand less and live more. Get 15% off your purchase today by using the link in my bio. Try Brandless today and save on beauty, health, and home decor. Listening to what these artists have done and how much that's inspired you, what's your own process when producing a new piece of music?
It has changed so much. What's funny enough, after I said all that, is I don't sample at all today. I haven't sampled in months, if not years. And I used to be, to all my friends' acknowledgement, like a virtuoso chopper. Like that's what I was really good at. Like I could chop any sample up, a 5-minute sample. I could chop it in less than the time it took to play it back and come up with these crazy combinations of slices and everything. And now when I start a piece of music, I don't even look at a sample. I'm always start with the chords, right? Which is very interesting how I got there. But part of it is just that the industry doesn't make sampling accessible, which to me is really a crime, because I notice if you look at like today's current music landscape, nobody does covers anymore. Nobody even covers their own songs. You remember when somebody used to have a hit song that was going on 4 albums? You know what I'm saying? With 4, they was gonna milk that song. Now
Or at
you
least
get
a
a hit song,
remix.
at least a remix. Come on
And
now.
an
Now
actual remix, not
an
just adding
actual
another
remix.
artist to the track.
Exactly. And they would have a whole LP with like 4 or 5 different remixes on it. It was the Jungle Club
Mhm.
mix, it was the club mix, it was the chopped and screwed. You know what I'm saying? You had everything on it.
Yes. Those used
But
to be
now,
hit, especially when they used to come in the little paper
yes,
cases.
yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And
Mhm.
so now it's this anti-collaboration, anti-creative thing that's going on in the industry to the point where nobody covers songs, nobody samples songs because business-wise it just doesn't make sense, right? And that's the point I got to because I'm a professional. I'm trying to make my living off of this and create some generational wealth for my children when I have them, create a record label, be able to pass them on royalties, etc., create something that's long lasting. And it's just not long lasting to be able to use samples in that type of way, right? So I
Mm.
kind of started to step away from it for business purposes, but also coming out of high school, I was really a like dropout type kid. So then the only class I really liked was AP Music Theory. And that was the only AP I took, and it was the only class I really showed up to and tried in. So that kind of really showed me what I wanted to do in life. So I went to college for
Mhm.
jazz. Also dropped out of college. We're not really an academic, but we went to college, okay? And so they're learning music theory and studying that. So much of my musical foundation now is I always start with chords, theories, progression, melody. I'm very much a composer in that way. So my process really usually starts with me sitting down at the keyboard and saying, what key are we going to be in? What chords are we starting with? And usually it's not like a conscious process like that. I'm not like, today let's play in the key of B flat. But I usually just kind of sit down, throw my hands at the keyboard, and if I notice I'm playing one chord too much, like, hey yo, you just started 5 beats on B flat minor, I'll try a chord I've never played before, right? But usually it starts with that, and I'll go around until I find something that just really feels good. But really, my favorite way to create is when I have both of my partners who run OakTownSoul in the studio with me, and we all produce together. We have this unique production workflow that's like a live band jamming, but with machines. And we have a jam session on all of our beat machines, on our synthesizers, and our computers, and everything is synced up. And we basically play and come up with ideas together, bounce them off of each other for hours, and then we record everything. And at the end of the night, we come in, rearrange it, drop parts out. We say, okay, that wasn't that great of an idea, or we kind of passed up on this idea. This idea was really good. We should really make this the foundation of the track, and then we'll add more around it. But I think one of
Mhm.
the key things for me is whether I'm solo producing the beat or whether I'm producing the beat with homies, always have somebody else in the room and always make music a communal process
Mm.
because we've lost a lot of that these days. So it's really always about starting with the energy of somebody else in the room and seeing what y'all can create from your unique experiences together. Because when you see somebody's head bobbing, even if it's just an artist, it's not another producer, right? You go,
Mhm.
oh, okay, so these chords is telling them something. They could tell their story on
Mhm.
this, right? But then if you start playing some chords, it don't matter how damn good the chord progression is. If the tempo is wrong, if the key is off, if they not feeling it, pivot. You just got to change what you're doing. And it's the same with my partners, Sean and Max. If I see Sean and Max ain't bobbing their head, they're not rocking with it, they got good taste. That means move. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'll play something that I don't even have confidence in. I'll be like, this is whatever. And they'll be like, yo, that's crazy. And if they're telling me something's crazy, even if I don't see the vision in it, I'm gonna lay it down and we're gonna build on top of it because they probably hear a direction we can go in. So that's like my cheat code to beginning a song really is work with people you can trust, with ears you can trust, and bounce ideas off of them. For me, it always starts with melody, it always starts with chords, but it also, more importantly, always starts with people.
Absolutely. Music is a communal experience.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I could get real deep about it if I wanted to recite some of my bars from Dr. Brown. Shout out Dr. Brown, because I pay attention in some of the classes in school. he was also my only black professor at a jazz institution, so that was kind of fucked up. There was a reason why I paid attention to him, but anywho, we're not going to throw too much shade today. Really, studying with him, he had an African American history class, and it was about the history of music and jazz, and he brought us all the way back to just the communal nature of music in West Africa pre-colonization and what that looked like and how that shapes everything we do today. And it's just so interesting to see that start to take a shift and people forget about the communal nature, especially as Black people, because that's when we make our best music. The music is made for community. It's made for people to dance to. It's made for us to work to. It is not made in service of you. I don't like this idea that everybody be on about like, oh, my fans, they should worship me, da 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 da. No, musicians are servants. You should be serving your audience. You should be serving the community. You know what I'm saying? You should be in community the way that we used to, there was a song for everything. And before we got brought to America, there was a song for birth, there was a song for death, there was a song for washing, there was a song for cleaning, there was a song for cooking. Everything had a musical accompaniment to serve that moment. It's not for the moment to serve the music. The music was not so that you could blow up and have diamonds and chains. It was purpose driven, right? And so I try to still keep that element, which is communal, purpose driven music. I'm hoping that I'm serving somebody. I'm hoping that my song is helping somebody. I'm hoping that it accents and accentuates the soundtrack to their life, and that they're not just sitting over here like, oh my God, he's so cool. Da, da, da. Like, that's not the goal of music. You know what I'm saying? And if that's your goal, honestly, you should pick another career. I'm gonna just say it. For the health of the music and for the health of everything else, we should really get back to that basis, that communal basis, that this is about people. This is a people-centric thing. You play with other people, you play for other people, you get that feedback, and we all exist and enjoy the music together.
Absolutely. Right now, we're going to take a short break to catch up on previous episodes of The Black Landscape. Download on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, and Google Podcasts. When we come back, we'll hear more from Clay Xavier and OakTownSoul. Hey everybody, this is your girl Andrea. I also host an audio series about dance movement artists in the San Francisco Bay Area called In Conversation. Guests have included Malesio Estrella, Latanya D. Tigner, Vanessa Sanchez, and more. Take a listen with the link in the bio. It's also available to listen on our Instagram Linktree. We are back with music producer Clay Xavier. So Clay, earlier you were talking about OakTownSoul. It's a music collective, right? Like, tell the people, how did it come to be? What is it?
So it kind of started as a music collective and has evolved a lot from there. It even started as a radio show, actually. It's funny, if you go way, way, way back to where it started, I was working at youth radio in downtown, formerly Youth Radio, now YR Media, in downtown Oakland on Broadway. And I was one of the youth there. I was in their programming, and I was fortunate enough that they had DJ Fuse there teaching. And if you don't know who DJ Fuse is, he is a legendary DJ from the Bay Area who was responsible for a lot of the production on Digital Underground Sex Packets back in the day. He knew Tupac before he blew up and when he was just a backup dancer on tour for Digital Underground. And he's been around and seen a lot. And he is a phenomenal DJ. And we were lucky enough to have him teaching us who knew nothing how to scratch and how to mix and everything from scratch. So really, one of my first like true professional musical positions was a DJ. And so at the time I was throwing together all type of DJ shows. I was DJing around the Bay Area a lot, and I was maybe like 17. I was trying to get a show every night. I was hungry. And so I had come up with an idea to start a new show. And I was looking outside. There's a window outside of the radio station where you can just see the streets of downtown and just see people walking around. And this is pre-COVID, so everybody's walking around, from the OSA students to business people to just fools with their homies, and you know what I'm saying? So you see everything out that window. And I was just like, I want to play soul music, and I want to make a radio show called OakTownSoul, and I just really want to rock that, right? And so I started hopping online and looking around, and come to find out some motherfucker already had my name.
Yep, that's why you got to research.
Bruh. And so I researched it, and then I reached out to them on Instagram, and at first I was like, man, this motherfucker ain't shit. Like, I'm about to steal this name. I'm about to pull up on them. Da da da. All bad behavior
See,
and
bad
thoughts.
intentions. Cutting up.
Bad intentions. But we ended up linking up, and it was Sean. And it's a funny meeting. I remember just going behind this house in Fruitvale, going behind this gate to some dude I didn't know. And if you know Fruitvale, you don't want to just be hopping up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm going behind this gate. I meet this dude, and we just really hit it off. And it was like, wait, you doing a radio show called OakTownSoul. I'm trying to do a radio show called OakTownSoul. Why don't we just do this radio show together, right? And so we started doing the radio show together, and we moved it to youth radio, started having better resources, etc. And we did that for some years, and we're posting a lot on Instagram and making beat videos and etc. And it just started to attract a natural community around it. We had a community of producers in Sean's house, meeting up, linking up, doing whatever, and we were dropping like collective projects. And we did that for some years, but it just started to show that like Sean and I were the most serious people around, and it was a collective. But it started to kind of turn into a studio. We started recording people for studio time, and then we started creating these resident artist deals where it was a collective and we would charge people less for studio time. But what we realized is we just want to be a label. Like, we're basically trying to sign artists to our collective, and we're trying to do all this stuff. And they want us to do label activities for them. They want us to release the music. They want us to promote it.
Absolutely.
But we're not a label. So why don't we just make a label? And so that was maybe about 2020, mid-pandemic. We made the decision to shift to a label. We got our LLC. We got our business in order. And now for the past 2 years, we've been building this indie record label in Oakland. And right about 2020 as well, that's when we met Max, our third partner, who moved up from LA, stayed on the couch for 6 months. He didn't have a room. He just moved into the house. He hustled, he grinded, he engineered all of our sessions. And we were just like, we never met somebody who matches our hustle like this. You got to help us run the company. And so then we had the Ultra team together. You know what I'm saying? It's me, Sean, and Max. We had met a few of our artists by that point. Domine Brashan was signed with us. Honest and Tenland was signed with us, who was also part of the Heart program last year. And Honest introduced us to Max. Honest also introduced us to one of our newer artists, infamous Taz, who's part of the Heart program this year. And so we just had this amazing team of just like these really talented artists, these really talented producers, and we just had to figure out how to get our music out there. And we're still in the process of that, but we're so much further down the road, learning how to handle publishing, learning how to release the records, learning how to go through distribution, learning how to write contracts, sign contracts, make sure the business is right, do proper accounting, give people paychecks, hire employees. So we're definitely a lot farther down the path than we had been. But yeah, it started as a collective, but now formerly and into the future, we are a record label, indie record label, that's looking to foster more music industry in the Bay Area.
Absolutely. And I love that. That's what happens when you really start to dive into your passion and sink into your purpose. You make that shift, and the people that are meant to be around you, it's a magnet. They come to you. They start blossoming in your community. They come to you naturally. Like you said, he moved up from LA, was couch hanging, and just, you saw something in him. It's like, your hustle matches our hustle. This was meant to be a collective of people who are hard workers, deeply committed to the same purpose, right?
Yep, 100%. It's the alignment. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So what's next for you?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Because obviously,
really
you just told us about, making these next steps with OakTownSoul as a collective. What's more personal for you? Like, what's a dream goal for you?
Honestly, this is my dream goal. I think the only thing outside of this label that I want to do is I really want to compose more and not just produce. I would love to reach a point in my career where I'm a half producer, half composer. And when I mean composer, I have done some work previously. I guess I'll talk my shit for a second. For a while,
Absolutely.
I was a freelance composer for Snap Judgment and Spooked on NPR. And I got that connect through my homie Davey, who was working at Youth Radio at the time. And he just had a lot of podcast experience, was running our podcast and introduced me. And so I started doing that, and they're headquartered here in downtown Oakland. And so I started composing for those podcasts through composed start to finish of the podcast, underscoring what they were talking about in their stories. And I really liked it. I digged it. I was like, oh, wow, this is very different from hip hop. It's not necessarily time like locked into a beat or a structure like that. Sometimes it's just ethereal, sometimes it's ambient, but it's such a different musical thing, right? And so I started doing that for a while, for a few years, and now I've realized I was super looking forward to maybe getting into films. I don't watch movies. But what I do is I play a heck of a lot of video games ever since I was a kid. Game Boy, DS, Wii. I'm a Nintendo kid. Now I play Switch. I'm trying to build my Pokemon team right now. I want to be a world champion on the side of my Grammy, but that's another conversation. But I realized, why am I not trying to compose for video games? Like, I don't really care about movies like that. I really care about video games. And I started going back to the video game soundtracks I love and going, yo, this is really more formative on my musical history than I realized. Like, I thought I never listened to music until I got that iPod, but I realized there was a lot of music I was listening to on my Game Boy, not realizing that it was music, not realizing that I really liked those songs, right? Because it was just background music to the game. So I was like, I like playing games, not realizing that the game music was half the reason you go there. You know what I'm saying? Like when we was going to church music is half the reason we was going there. But another conversation. Before I get myself in trouble. But yeah, for me next, I'd really like to pursue more video game composition. I have not started a video game composition yet. I've really, most of my experiences in podcasting, doing Snap Judgment. Recently did a podcast for Tommy Hilfiger and the Fashion Race Database called The Invisible Seam, where OakTownSoul and I really scored 90% of the thing and offered our music up for 90% of that. So if you want to go listen to that podcast as well, you can listen to that. But yeah, I want to really get deeper into that. But also, I really want to push forward this company and create something that is just lasting, that is a foundation, that is something that will, when I step away, keep moving. You know, I want to be able to get old enough that I can step away, that other people run this company, and that I can leave something to my children, that I can do that for the future. And also that I can create an ecosystem in the Bay Area where kids don't feel like they have to move to LA. I had so many friends who are out here who were really talented, who moved and got swallowed up by the LA music scene because they just couldn't do it out here. There was no opportunities, right? So the goal is, our tagline right now is collaboration over competition. We're about to start reaching out to a lot of local artists and just trying to help them get a little further in their career, help them sync more music, get more music on TV and television. TV and television are the same thing, TV and film. And just caught myself there before anybody ats me. Calm down. I corrected myself. But yeah, to really push forward the community and to put a pressure on the quality in the Bay Area to be better than the lackadaisical standards we've had, where people are just like, yeah, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. Well, in New York, it's not good enough. In Atlanta, it's not good enough. In LA, it's not good enough. And when people tell you it's not good enough in Atlanta, New York, and LA, that's when you get better. And that's when I got better. When Sean told me, yo, beats is trash, I said, what? And then I listened to him. They was trash. They was trash. He was right. He was right. He changed my life by telling me that my beats was trash. And if everybody had hyped me up the whole time, I probably would have never made it professional, because I would have thought I was good enough, and I was not, right? And to this day, I mean, I'm good enough, but am I good enough for a Grammy yet? No. And I'm not going to feel entitled until I get to that point. And I don't feel like any of us in the Bay Area should. We need to have a harder culture. We need to be more not judgmental, but we need to have a higher standard, right? Black excellence is not Black mediocrity. And you have to be really honest about when we're not being excellent. Because if you want to be excellent and you want to hoop on that level, the NBA ain't just picking up anybody off a street ball and being like, good enough. You know what I'm saying? Like Mamba mentality, like be Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Get in the gym, work. So that's the thing that's the culture that we're trying to inspire and push for. So I'd say like, yeah, that's the future for me. Getting more into composing, trying to stay locked in and really build this business and trying to help bring some people along the way. I can't force nobody. I'm not going to hold nobody's hand, but to encourage people to take the same journey with me and with my team to become better, to learn more, to push our area and to get more and more professional and make better and better music every day. That's the future.
Yes, absolutely. That absolutely is the future. And, this is not the first time this has been brought up with, one of our musical guests, like how the community in the Bay Area needs some adjusting and needs some support and needs to be more open as a group, especially when it comes to old heads mentoring the young people so that way they don't run off to LA. But, that's an ongoing conversation. And I'm glad that you're one of the people that's really diving into that and wanting to not hold people's hands, but in that Sankofa way of bringing them along with you. It's like we all got a future. Let's move together. Those who really want to work, that is what we're looking for. Even though I don't know what's this not watching movies business. That's where some of the best music comes from, Clay.
On God. And I'm not hating on movies. I just didn't grow up like that. You know what I'm saying? People always get mad at me because they'll be like, oh, you seen this? Oh, you seen this? Listen, I've seen neither any of the Black or white classics. So I am on both of my cultures and both of my peoples. So
cards revoked.
All the cards revoked. I'm cardless. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a home. But it's really, I just didn't grow up watching movies. It's not that I don't fuck with movies. I do. I rock with movies. I just rock with games more. I think I'm a little ADHD. I like to control the action. I like to participate. But I rock with movies, don't get me wrong. But also I'm trifling because I'll literally just not watch a movie and pull up on Spotify and listen to its score on repeat.
Yes. Okay, good.
I'll just listen to the soundtracks. Oh, I listen to soundtracks like a motherfucker. There's so many movies that I know the soundtrack and I ain't watched a scene, which is trifling. Not going to say it's not trifling. It's trifling. Just go watch the movie, sir. However, when it comes to soundtracks, oh, trust me, I'm in there. I'm in there like swimwear.
Good. Okay. So we won't hold it against you.
Yeah. So come on.
Yeah. So Clay, tell the people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Clay Xavier. That's my main platform. I'm trying to build some other ones, but hey, chill. There's a lot to keep daily posts happening on one of them. You can also find the label on Instagram at OakTownSoul and pretty much every other social media at OakTownSoul, but really Instagram, guys. And you can catch me in the flesh. You can catch me in Oakland. You can catch me at events. You can catch me outside. A lot of people are going to laugh at that because they know I'm a homebody and I'm a studio head. But holla at me. If you see me, you know what I'm saying, walking around, stop me. You know what I'm saying? I'll have a conversation as long as I'm not too busy. And yeah, reach out on Instagram. Hit me up. I guess if anybody wants to submit anything, my email is clayxavier@oaktownsoul.com. Send me stuff. Send me music. Holla at me. And yeah, just really follow the journey, support us, and hopefully I can support you along the way and make a change in your life if you can make a change in mine.
Well, thank you so much, Clay, for joining us today. And thank all of you out there for listening and supporting another season. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape, where Black excellence is always trending.